Hello, this is David Baumblatt from Terabinth Leadership. We are going to be talking about today about eventually America will go into some type of civil war. It'll be a revolution. There'll be a collapse. I remember again when I left in 2010, I had this story about how it's possible. I believe America is going to go into civil war. And I remember the people that I was talking to, some of my classmates from West Point, and they said, "Are you kidding me? That's never going to happen." They were like, "That is so ridiculous." He goes, "We're never going to kill each other." You don't think Americans would kill each other? Oh, I do. I think it's going to happen. One thing about leadership is you have to have a sense of principles. And I talked about this before, how America is a global corporation. We don't really have principles. Like even if you ask MAGA, and people have pushed back, they're like, "Why are you saying bad stuff about Donald Trump?" Trust me, I'm not into the Democrats. And I've always said Donald Trump is the best president in my life. But I've always said the best is yet to come. But if you ask the MAGA people, why are we taking Greenland, this and that? They don't know. Why are we bombing Iran? Don't know. Why don't we just take Canada? I mean, what are we doing? There's an economic point behind this. Look at Venezuela. I guess you could say it's survival, Venezuela, but what are our principles? It's going to be a blank stare. Like literally, what are our principles in America? We are not a Christian nation anymore. And most people that say they're Christians, it's a joke. You know, many times I've said this, many times about China. I don't see that much difference between the Chinese people and the Chinese government. Not much. It's not negative or positive. There's not much. Same thing in America. We're gonna show some examples. This thought about the evil people are in these globalists in the government, but not the good old American people. They're good. Not going to really say that. I don't see that much different. I mean, you ask yourself, when we say we in America, who are we talking about? Even MAGA. You have to give Donald Trump a lot of credit. Donald Trump came along and he educated to the Americans. Some of us already knew it. Again, I left America. I was not into the Republicans. I grew up in a pro-Republican family, but I wouldn't say we were diehard Republicans, but we weren't generally Democrats. But anyway, Donald Trump educated us. He said, "Hey, these guys are rhinos, Republican in name only." And he's right. He's absolutely right. Guess what? Same thing's going to happen with MAGA. There's a video later about MAGA's going to split. But what we're trying to do is we're going to talk about the video with Governor Walz. I'm not a fan of these people, Somalis, but it's going to get to the point, who are our enemies and who are our allies? We don't know. I mean, you really think 350 million Americans were one big family? Not going to work, people. I'm telling you, these videos are going to age like fine wine. You're going to go into civil war. We're going to kill each other. Look at our own government. Let me do a quick story of me, and then we're going to go on, and I'm going to show you how even our good old American people, these people are scumbags. I'm talking about American citizens. You'll see. It's going to get bad. So let me tell you a story. This is Marion, Alabama. So I'm from New York, born and raised. I applied to get to West Point. West Point, I've always said, is the biggest accomplishment of my life. Am I big into West Point now? Do I really think about West Point in the military? That's a different story. But I see Shane here. I don't think America is making it to. I mean, you got to think, I'm looking at Shane's comment. How does America solve problems? Like, look at our overseas policy. This is where I'll do another video on Donald Trump, but we're really getting the war machine moving. Look at Donald Trump taking away your tax money that could be spent on great things in America. We're building up the war. I mean, we look at China and Russia as on the war path. We are. And how do we solve our problem? Bombing countries, killing countries. So I'm just saying, we use violence, meaning the United States government uses violence to solve much of our problems. You don't think that same concept is going to be domestically? Again, how did America get formed? Violence. So I find it so retarded. Again, people like, I'm against violence. Are you kidding me? Now, everybody in every country has violence. There's levels to it. I'd probably put America right there on the highest level. I don't want to change the subject. It's like racism. We're all racist. All countries are racist. But I would put the white man and America, it's probably the least racist, you know, along with other Western countries, but we're all racist. So same thing with violence. We're all violent, but there's levels to it. I would probably say America could quite possibly be the best country ever created, maybe not now, before, but we're probably also the most violent country. So we just have to come. It's the same thing when I talk about the Chinese. The Chinese people and the Chinese government are not that much the same. I'm saying this because our next video is going to be, there's a moron in the United States government. Again, I know more about China than probably anyone in the government. He's wrong. Well, it's the same thing in America to say, yeah, the evil is with our government. The evil is with these corporations, which I do believe is the biggest threat. But the good old-fashioned Americans, they're good people. I don't know. I don't know about that. We'll see, because I think Americans are going to tear each other apart. Let's talk about a quick story when I was at Marion Military Institute. We're going to get on this because I said you have to have principles. Now, normally where people get principles from is religion, spirituality, philosophy. And make it known, I've never said I'm an expert on Christianity. I'll tell you the story in China why I stopped going to church and I went to the synagogue. But I'm not an expert on Judaism, nor am I an expert on Christianity. What I am an expert on is leadership. And if you're going to be pro-Western, you need to put Christianity first. So you could do other religions, but this is a Christian first nation. But it's an interesting story where I said, fuck this, I ain't going to church anymore, I'm going to synagogue. And if you know my background, you'd be like, yeah, it makes sense to me. So anyway, I tried to get into West Point in high school. I got denied. It's in my book. A lot of people also think this is a fake story. It's not a fake story. I'm the 12th person in the history of America to get commissioned both by Army ROTC and West Point. So in high school, I got accepted to Marion Military Institute located in Marion, Alabama. It's a military school. And what's interesting is our common, I still remember Colonel Blake, West Point graduate, Vietnam vet, Army Ranger. Interesting story from him. But anyway, in Marion, unlike West Point, church was mandatory. It used to be mandatory at West Point, and we'll get into the story. So there I was at Marion, Alabama, and good for them, they said, okay, Sundays is mandatory church. What is your religion? And again, I'm not an expert on Christianity. They named off like 20 different religions, Baptist, Protestant, this and that. I mean, man, Alabama has got a lot. In this small town of Marion, Alabama, you can look it up. It's near Montgomery, Alabama. I only lived in Alabama for 2 years. I actually did some military training there. Fort Benning is in Georgia, not Alabama. There was another Fort McClellan, Alabama. I went to Alabama again for post-military training. But anyway, the school's Marion, Alabama. And anyway, you got to go to church. I remember calling up my dad, who's the Jew, and I said, hey, Dad, and he's not a typical Jew at all. Even me, most people trust me. My view of Adolf Hitler and World War II, if I told you it, you'd probably say, yeah, he's not the typical Jew. Anyway, I said, Dad, there's no synagogue here. There's no, I have to go to Christian church. And he was on the phone. He's like, so go to church. Don't be an idiot. What's the problem? Go to church. So I said, what church? Because I kept forgetting they list it all. And he's like, what are you, a moron? He goes, your mother is Lutheran. My mom's German. She's Lutheran. He goes, go to the Lutheran church. And I remember I said, my mom's Lutheran, because I used to grow up. I went sometimes to the synagogue, sometimes to the Christian, but we weren't a very religious family. Just making it known now. But I think in the future, I'd become more pro-religion because we're losing our morals. So like I said, don't ever quote me saying I'm Mr. Christian or Mr. Judaism, but I understand leadership, and leadership, you have to have principles. So here's the story. I said, well, I'm Lutheran, and they slotted me to this church, and every Sunday, which is probably typical to most military schools, well, except West Point, because West Point doesn't have mandatory church. We formed up, I don't remember, it was like 9 o'clock in the morning. I think we went to our chow hall, we ate breakfast, something like that. We formed up in our ranks, in our church platoon. So Sunday, you didn't fall into your normal platoon. I was in Bravo platoon. My first year, I was in Charlie company. I was in Bravo company my first year, Charlie company my second year. But for Sunday, you fall into your whatever church you are. There's so many churches, so many different Christian religions. I still can't believe how many there are. So you fell into that platoon. And then you march. It's like I don't know if they still do it at Marion, Alabama. You literally march from the school down Main Street, Alabama, and when you get to your church, the platoon, you spin off and you go to your church. And so I'm in the Lutheran platoon, and sure enough, we go to our Lutheran church. And people warned me. I didn't know this, but they said, "Dude," he goes, "Did you know that the commandant of Marion Military, Colonel Blake, full bird Colonel Blake?" He's also Lutheran. He goes to this church. Nah, fuck. You get yelled at all the time. You don't want the commandant there. And sure enough, we're in full uniform, full like dress uniform. You're almost like sitting at attention at church because the commandant's there. And I can't remember how big that church was. It wasn't more than 100 people. I'm just taking a guess, but he could see you. And then after the church service, there's like a lunch. Everyone does it together. It's very family oriented, Christian oriented. Again, coming from New York, this is Alabama. This is a small town. It's a very different culture. Talk about how I talk about experience of going overseas. Back then, going from New York to Alabama, it felt sort of like going to a different country, which is great. It's a great experience. And I remember Colonel Blake, out of the blue, there I am. We're eating Sunday church food, Sunday brunch, typical Southern, grits and greens. I can't remember all this stuff, fried chicken, typical Southern food. And Colonel Blake is sitting at my table, and I'm like, fuck, So it's again, you're just like, you're worried because you don't want to get in trouble. It's not a very relaxing. And they try to tell you, all right, cadets, you're at church. You can at ease, this is a place of God, relax. Yeah, right, ain't gonna do it. So you're looking at the commandant. So he looks at me. This is, I think, my first time at church, first time I've ever actually talked to the commandant. He's sitting like almost right next to me on the table. He looked at me, he's like, Cadet Baumblatt, because they don't, obviously we're not on first name basis here. So Cadet Baumblatt, why did you choose to go to Marion Military Institute? I remember he asked me the question. I was like, sir, my goal is to get accepted. I remember I said this, into the West Point Military Academy. He immediately corrected me. He goes, you mean the United States Military Academy at West Point? And I was like, oh yeah, I guess I screwed that up. Yes, sir, that's it. And then he told me this story, which is true, because he's a West Point graduate. And again, at the time, I don't even know what year he would have graduated. Like back in the 60s, again, he's a Vietnam vet. And he said, back when I was at West Point, church was mandatory, and it should still be, but it's not mandatory anymore. And I said, I didn't know, I don't know this stuff. I don't know that much about West Point. I'm learning about the military. I mean, my father served in the Navy, but it's not like I really know a lot about this. So I said, oh, sir, it's not mandatory? Because I assumed Marion Military Institute's mandatory. West Point. He goes, no, they did away with it. He goes, they're losing their values at West Point. And you know something? He's right. Now, I'm not saying you have to be a Christian to find your values, but if you're not going to find it in religion, where are you going to find it at? And I still say it anymore. If you're a patriot for America or for the Western world, you should be Christian first. And he's right. We don't really have values. And I've said that. Where are our values? We're not a Christian nation. Some countries can get it through philosophy. There's Taoism and Buddhism. We're talking the real philosophy, spirituality. But that's where we get our values from. Some people can say, yeah, but we get our values from our mom and dad. I'll buy that for $1, your dad. But where did they get their values from? Meaning eventually, if you look at higher principles, we do get it from some type of spirituality, religion, philosophy. We don't have that anymore. This is where I look at Donald Trump, and people are still, why are you talking about Donald Trump? Hey, no one's perfect. Just like Adolf Hitler isn't 100% evil. There's no one 100% evil. There's no one 100% good. So Donald Trump, I still look at him like a globalist businessman, still the best there is. But we're not a Christian country. And what he's doing, I'm not quite sure where we're going on this, but that's another story. But what I want to ask you again is, when you say we in America, what are our principles? We're not Christian anymore. So what I'm going to do is, I see Shane here, John, damn it, I want to watch but need to take out the door. I see Giovanni's. We get that from mom and dad. We're fucked. Yeah, and I've said before, we'll go to the videos, but when I grew up, I'm not going to say I was very, very lucky, but I was a little lucky. But now you're fine. I had a father, a full-time father who was with me, lived with me, supported me, and I had a full-time homemaker mother, and my father wanted that. He goes, I'm not going to marry no working mother. He goes, I wanted my wife, the mother of my kids, to be at home so I could concentrate on my work. Obviously, every now and then, sure, we had a babysitter. My mom and dad would go out, but there was no nanny. It was my mother. It was a full-time homemaker. So when I grew up, was I lucky? I would probably say I was a little lucky. Now, in the year 2025, if you're a young boy and you could say you have a full-time father and a full-time stay-at-home mother, I think without a doubt, you need to admit you are very, very lucky, which means we fucked up. Trust me. I've always said, I'm not impressed. Everyone gets on the baby boom generation, which I could say probably the worst generation in American history. But Generation X, I'm not saying we're that great. I think we suck. So the point is where I grew up, I would say probably I was a little lucky, full-time father and a full-time stay-at-home mother. Today's day and age, you're absolutely lucky. And whose fault is that? Not you, meaning the young generation. My generation, we fucked it up. It's just like the baby boomers fucked it up. It's going to get worse, people. But before I get to the videos, I want to show you two things on Twitter. And it goes to the point where people are like, David, we'll never kill each other like Americans. I mean, we don't have a problem killing foreigners, people. I mean, Jesus, you would think Denmark, these are the Danish, Europeans, they're our brothers. I don't know, we'll probably bomb the shit out of them to get, our minerals and everything. I mean, it's just survival of the fittest now. So anyway, you really don't think Americans would kill each other? So what I want to do is this, and hold to the principles. I posted these comments. We're going to share it right now so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. I think it's here. So this is on Twitter. I think everyone can see that. And I post this on different things. Let me just make sure. So I did this. Everyone hopefully can see that. I said, hello, my name's David Baumblatt, boom, boom, boom. Now, there are people that I posted this to that have actually told me, we're going to go back here because I want to make this point clear before we get to the videos, because this is serious. We're going to go. Now, if you don't have principles, you don't have leadership. But guess what? I never said what the principles are. From my leadership training, it's a good idea that you get them from religion, you get them from spirituality, you get them from philosophy, you get it from a higher source of God, and we'll go into other videos. But they're your principles. But what I'm saying is, lead by example, follow your principles. If you don't like your principles, you could change them. But whatever your principles are, most people don't have principles. And by the way, if you're not willing to die for it, it's not really a principle. So what am I saying? I did one of these comments of, hey, David Baumblatt. I mean, I've been doing this for 2 years, but I'm trying to give you feedback on the American people because I have a lens in life, whether it's my government time, whether it's in China, or now that I've come to the forefront asking American people for help. I've got a lens that you probably don't, because I didn't know that. I thought I would get much more overwhelming support from the American citizen. So now I posted this for 2 years. Yesterday, I had this comment back, and I have no problem. This is what the guy said. He goes, screw you and your military veterans. I don't support military veterans. Fuck you, and you only work for the corporation. Something like that. You know what I said? I don't have a problem with that. That's what he said. There's a lot of logic into what he's saying. So I don't have a problem with that, which is the same reason I don't talk with a lot of liberals, because they're probably not going to support me. But if you say you support military veterans, I'm not necessarily, I am, but I'm not necessarily telling you to help me. But what I am saying is follow up on your principles, not mine. You said you support military veterans, you support law enforcement, you're a Christian. This is what I say about the FBI. They're grifters. It is what it is. So if you don't like your principles, you could change them. But it's the same thing you would tell your children. If you have principles, then abide by your principles. If later on you want to change your principles, that's possible. So again, if you say you support military veterans, you don't even have to give me any money. Just help me out. Why aren't the politicians talking to me? You said you're going to support them. So I want you to know that there was I didn't save the clip, but he's like, screw you. I don't support military veterans. And I was like, okay, I don't have a problem with that. And I respect your honesty, and your principle has logic, because really our military, I should do a video on the Venezuela thing. Is that really helping out America? I guess the economy, we'll talk later. But anyway, this person, let's just go 2 comments, one good, one bad. And the bad one, I think it's going to amaze you. And then we're going to go into the Civil War. But I wanted to compare this with China, because we always say Chinese government evil, Chinese people good. No, I disagree with that all. I'm not saying good or bad. There's not much difference. So the same thing we're looking at, American globalist government, American globalist corporations, bad. I'm going to agree with that. But the American people, good? You know what I think? Depends. Depends. I think a lot of these Americans, they will kill you and me very quickly. That's why this place is blowing up. So let me just show you these two things here real quick. So back to here. So this is the good thing. So firstly, hopefully you can see this is the standard thing. I said, hey, I'm David Baumblatt. Well, why aren't the politicians talking with me? You know, help me out here. The system is dysfunctional here. I just want to know, why am I on the FBI terrorist watch? You know, if you support military veterans. So he writes back, and again, his name's Patriot Matt. I'm assuming he's an American citizen. I don't even know if he's a military veteran, but what does he write? God bless you, brother David. Use Palm 91. I don't even know what that is, because again, I've never said I'm an expert on Christianity, but I am an expert on leadership, and I believe in Christianity as a positive force of good. He said, use Palm to protect you and your family every day. They can't win against you when God is on your side, my friend. Take care now, Dave. Sounds like, now, did he help me out in any other way? I don't know, but that's a very positive statement. That's, you know, hey, I'll buy that for $1. So I'd be like, yeah, I appreciate it. Patriot Matt 47, you know, a positive statement that says, hey, hang in there and keep Christian God on your side and things will work out. I'll buy that for $1. So after this, though, let's go to another one here and see how this is. So hopefully everyone can see this. So this same thing. So his name is Slow Booger. And he's like, as a veteran. So this guy's a military veteran. I want us to feel this because I did a video before about military veterans. We're going to kill each other. He's like, as a veteran and prior member of the intel community. Oh, yeah, I'm sure he's a smart guy because he's in the intelligence community. The last thing I would ever do is go and reach out a hand to a country like China, Russia. I don't know what he means by reach out a hand. I'd never reach out a hand to China. I mean, he doesn't have a problem with American corporations going to China. No legitimate reason to do that. Sorry, David, you look like a traitor. And so I'm going to do good. So first, it's like amazing what type of low DNA people are accepting in our intelligence community. So many ignorant things. He's a moron. And he's probably buying cheap Chinese goods, meaning China's the enemy. Oh, wow. Cheap Chinese goods, I'll buy them. And this, oh, and by the way, the intel community, I'll do when I stop it. They're not as competent as you think, despite what happened in Venezuela. And I could explain it. It has to do with the video that I did with the KGB. With the amount of money we have, doing intelligence is not that difficult. But anyway, this is my response. And this is where we're going to go into civil war. I just say civil war is coming. Most veterans will kill each other. And his response doesn't surprise me. So to the American public, this guy, assuming he's telling the truth, assuming he's a U.S. citizen military veteran, this is him. This is the bond. This is the bond we have with two military veterans, not good people. I said this before, military veterans are about 1% of the American population. If military veterans cannot form a brotherhood, you think regular civilians can? Probably not. But that's a regular military veteran. Thanks, brother. Thanks for watching my back. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into video. Let me look at the comments here. Yeah, what I want to do is I don't want to do deviant, but let me just say on Intel, because it has to do with a little with these ICE people. Now, I've said many times, if you're a federal law enforcement ICE officer and your job is to deport illegal aliens, tax money well spent, and I can articulate, thank you for your service. Most Americans can't articulate like to a military veterans, thank you for your service. What service? Literally, what have we done? Oh, Venezuela? Like literally, what did we help you out with Venezuela? The corporations, the oil. I mean, try to articulate. But I can articulate it to ICE, thank you for your service. Why? What did I do? Well, I believe illegal aliens are causing safety issues in America, economic issues in America, and they're taking away our faith, family, freedom. They're not, many of them are not Christians. They're not Europeans. They don't value our freedom. They shouldn't be here. And somebody's got to get rid of them. We'll talk about them. So I could thank them for their service. But I have to admit, and these are other videos, the people that are getting recruited into ICE, aren't exactly the top end people. I don't want to change the subject. I still thank them for their service, but we're going to go in the video. But a lot of them are the ones getting fired from police departments. I mean, there's a government thing. Like if you go to the prison of bureaus, the federal prison of bureaus, it's kind of the bottom of the barrel. Well, what do I talk about? The intel. Remember, he's like, I'm former intel. So remember the Twitter, the X1. He's like, I'm former veteran and I'm an intel, but they're not very smart. Now you might say, but David, that operation in Venezuela is very smart. Well, again, there's one thing to do an operation. I mean, Osama bin Laden was also a pretty good operation, even though I put Venezuela higher. But I'll do another video on it, but it's similar to what the video I did with the KGB defector. There's some other stories I should tell you. It's pretty interesting. But Intel 101, Espionage 101, it's very similar. Think about it. There is a beautiful woman, very beautiful, hot. You're a typical dude, same dude. And your goal is to have sex with this woman. And I'm going to tell you, have sex with this woman, but you cannot spend any money on her. You can't buy her flowers. You can't take her out to dinner. You're just going to have to use your natural charm, your trade craft. It depends. Now, if you're already a good looking guy, this and that, with a big dick or, go down, okay, maybe it's easier, but still, you can't use any money. Versus the same scenario, and I give you $1 million, and I say have sex with her. You're like, $1 million? I mean, just basically prostitution. I'm sure I could give her $100,000 to have sex with me. The point being is, when you have money, things become a lot easier. And just so you know, in our intelligence community, meaning America versus the other countries, and again, this is what the ex-KGB defector said. He goes, the amount of money that the FBI and the CIA would throw at us, it's unbelievable. So, for instance, we want to get to the story, but don't fool yourself. There's a lot of these intelligence people. They're not very smart. A lot of them are dumb people. Or we're not going to say dumb, but they're not very intelligent. They couldn't survive in the private sector. And so, for instance, part of the asset that we had that betrayed the Venezuelan President Maduro, I believe we paid him $50 million. Do you know, as an American, what $50 million is to a Venezuelan? It could quite possibly be the equivalent of $500 million to an American. When you have that amount of money to give out, it's not that difficult to recruit assets and have them operational versus $5,000. Yeah, good luck. So what I want to do, I don't want to change the subject, but I hear a lot of these intel. Oh, yeah, our intel's like, yeah, okay. And Donald Trump wants to take our military budget. He hasn't even talked about our intelligence budget. Just our military budget from 1 trillion to 1.5 trillion. You start throwing that much money, and that money's coming out of your bank account. This is where I'm not necessarily in alignment with Trump. That is, we're forming a military empire. So I don't want to change the subject, but I know when the guy said, there's a former military veteran, and he's so smart. He's in the intelligence community. There's a lot of dumb people in the CIA, the FBI. For all I know, he's some yo-yo. I mean, there's a total of 16 different intelligence communities in America. There could be more now because we have Space Force. They're always fucking popping up. Don't fool yourself. There's a lot of government yo-yo intelligence people. And I still believe, and this is, again, what the KGB defector told me, that money was a big reason why he decided to work for the FBI, along with emigrating to America, which at the time, compared to the Soviet Union, was the land of milk and honey. So don't fool yourself. When there's a lot of money on the line, your trade craft or your DNA could be a lot lower. It's like the ugly dude, the short, ugly dude. How many guys that are billionaires or multimillionaires are truly lonely with women? When you have money, women come. Don't fool yourself. The oldest profession in the world is prostitution. What's the second oldest? It's espionage. There's a lot of things related. I don't want to spend time on it, but I hear this guy who's like, man, I'm former veteran and I'm a former intel. Well, you're a former veteran and you showed no fucking loyalty to me. Because either way, it's possible. It's possible. I might be innocent. There's innocent people going to jail. So it's like, hey, David, I'm not going to say you're innocent, but this is fucked up. Why are you being ignored by politicians? You could be an innocent person. I'm going to help you out. And two, intel means he's pretty smart. He said most of the retarded thing. I would never go to China. Okay, but Boeing, which is part of the military industrial complex, They could go to China, along with basically every single American corporation. They could go to China, that's fine. You could buy Chinese products, that's fine. And Chinese people could immigrate to America, that's fine. And Chinese citizens can join the military. If you really look to, we're going to do a video on a very high level government person, the next video talking about China. He's a moron. But anyway, let's go to this. Let me just look at the question, Shane. Just look at the ATF. You have to realize, you will not find anyone until I got on social media that I spoke negatively about the government, the intel. I just don't. It's not my personality. I left. It's not mine. So if anyone thinks that I'm this disgruntled person that has been holding this up, to say it's not. I should not be on here. Our government is absolutely corrupt. You're going to see it. The politicians have not reached out to me. You don't put an American citizen on the FBI terrorist watch and then ignore them and run from them. This system's going down. So again, with the ATF, the point being is what Shane mentioned. There's a lot of people in the government who make a career that I really think are too stupid, they're too lazy, and they're too afraid to get a job. And that's what I said. If I went into the FBI as a deputy director, I would have done a much better job than Dan Bongino, or I would have got fired trying. And what would I have done? Because it's too complicated to fix. The only thing I would have said is, I'm going in there and I'm going to fire people. We're going to reduce the agency. Think about it. If you're a MAGA person, do you want a bigger government or smaller? Really? Do you want a bigger government? That's the only plausible thing, that it's not going to fix the FBI, because I mentioned it, the country. But at least I could go in there and I said, I fired 2,000 special agents. I mean, my goal would be 5,000. I literally terminated 5,000 special agents, and I've now reduced the FBI by a good margin, which saved the taxpayer money, and I cut out the low resume people. That would be the only thing I really could accomplish in there if you had the power. Everything else, it's smoke and mirrors. It's smoke and mirrors, because the FBI and the CIA and West, it's too tied to America, that if America goes up, if America goes down, it's all going to be seen. There's no fixing this, people. This is a house of cards. So what I want to do is, let's look at Governor Walz, because what did I say about what did I say about Civil War? You're going to start seeing state and federal. Now, I'm not an advocate of the Democrat state or Governor, I guess, Tim Walz. I'm not that at all. I think all these Somalis should be kicked out. But I'm just saying, this system is going down either way. And I'm telling you, you're going to look back and say, you know something? I remember David Baumblatt saying this about Civil War, and I said, there is no way us good, hardworking, God-fearing American people would kill each other. What are you, a fucking moron? Of course we'll do. We'll kill everything. I mean, if the money's right, and we're a corporation. I mean, even these yo-yos that say they're Christians aren't really Christians. Let's look at this first video, and then we'll take it step by step. Here we go. Yeah, we'll go to Timmy here. Big Tim. Oh, and by the way, Timmy, let me bring this up here. Supposedly, Tim is also a military veteran. Well, guess what? What have I kept saying from day one? It don't matter anymore. And that's what I'm saying. If you're an American citizen and you say, David, I know you keep saying you're a military veteran and you want support, but I'm telling you, I don't support military veterans. I don't support you people. I would say, well, you're an honest person and you're abiding by your principles, because I'm asking for support. I'm a military veteran, and you just said you don't support military veterans. I can't argue with that logic, because I think military. But here's Tim Walz. He's a fellow military veteran. You think me and Tim are kumbaya? It's falling apart, people. And people think this is a liberal, a Republican thing. It's not. It's on all levels. You're going to see it. But let's listen what Timmy's got to say here.
Good afternoon. Today I'm joined by Department of Public Safety Commissioner Bob Jacobson, Colonel Schaefer of the Minnesota National Guard, and Colonel Bogojevic of the Minnesota State Patrol. This morning we learned that an ICE...
So again, I just want to remind people, some people, this guy is a military veteran. What do people think? I mean, can we just finally agree that military veteran status doesn't really mean anything to the American people? Even us military veterans, we don't like one another. It depends. If they're a military veteran that sort of aligns, okay. If they don't align, fuck them. So it's okay. If you're a civilian, it's okay to start saying, you know something? I really don't support military veterans. It depends. I'll buy that for $1.
Officer shot and killed someone in Minneapolis. My deepest condolences to the family, to the loved ones who had to learn about this tragic event on national television. We have been warning for weeks that the Trump administration's dangerous, sensationalized operations are a threat to our public safety, that someone was going to get hurt. Just yesterday, I said exactly that. What we're seeing is the consequences of governance designed to generate fear, headlines, and conflict. It's governing by reality TV. And today that recklessness cost someone their life. I've reached out to Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, and I'm waiting to hear back. Let me be clear. Donald Trump and his administration may not care much about Minnesota. That's been pretty evident. But we love this state. We won't let them tear us apart. We'll not turn against each other. To Minnesotans, I say this. I feel your anger.
So, and again, I'm big in the state. Notice he said Minnesotans. I don't know what a Minnesotan is, what the Somalis are counted there. But ask yourself, who is an American and who is actually is a Minnesotan? I'll give my advice on this. Let him finish.
Angry. They want a show. We can't give it to them. We cannot. If you protest and express your First Amendment rights, please do so peacefully, as you always do. We can't give them what they want. The hearts and minds of the people in this state are on our side. To Americans, I ask you this, please stand with Minneapolis. To Minnesotans, know that our administration is going to stop at nothing to seek accountability and justice. The State Bureau of Criminal Apprehension are working on the investigation. We have activated the State Emergency Operations Center. State Patrol and Minnesota National Guard leadership is connected with the Minneapolis Police Department, the St. Paul Police Department, Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, the DNR, and Minnesota's Homeland Security and Emergency Management. We have activated dozens of members.
All right, I think we get it. It's enough. Let me go to this and 1 second. Let's just get the rundown really quick.
Unrest in Minneapolis, switching out this camera for a live look over that city this morning. Governor Tim Walz now authorizing the Minnesota National Guard to be ready and support both local and state law enforcement. The governor says troops will be involved with protecting property, public safety, also safeguarding critical infrastructure. This happens when, and this is the focus, when these riots sometimes get out of control. Now, protests have been ramping up after these ICE agents, the one fatally shot the woman on Wednesday in Minneapolis. Federal officials say she tried to run over that federal agent with her car.
We're going to do a quick view on this woman thing.
Before she was shot, Vice President J.D. Vance spoke out about this. He was very pointed in his conversations yesterday. Listen.
I'm not happy that this woman lost her life. I'm not happy that this woman was there at a protest violating the law by interfering with a law enforcement action. I think that we can all recognize that the best way to turn down the temperature is to tell people to take their concerns about immigration policy to the ballot box. Stop assaulting and stop inciting violence against our law enforcement officers. That's the best way to take down the temperature.
Governor Walz says that.
All right, on September 6th, we also did some violence. So what am I trying to say here? And no, I'm not. We're going to talk about the woman, but what we have to do is you ask yourself, if Donald Trump lost the election, or if Donald Trump for some reason got arrested, you don't think Donald Trump would be calling for violence? Meaning it's going to go from both ways. We're going to violence. The only solution that I would think is, and this is where you could realize that they're controlling us through globalism. Remember how they said they're putting us together, the liberals and the conservatives, the black and the white, all this stuff. But what I've said, it's really the rich and the poor, I would say. And that is, and this is where Charlie Kirk, in some ways, he was also speaking the same globalist mindset. And that is, how many people do you know, literally, if you do, please write the name. I'm going to find them. I want to do clips. How many significant political influencers, politicians, and we're going to watch one, anyone at that American federal level leadership politics is advocating for a divorce. Not anyone. So we keep fighting. Why? Because think about a corporation. They don't want to go bankrupt. They don't want to split. But the point being is, sooner or later, we're only going to have two solutions. We're going to go to violence, or we could possibly look at a peaceful solution. There's no way to do this. And so what I say again is, the far left and the far right, we are not the enemies. Our enemy are those that are keeping us together in this dysfunctional globalist corporation. Once that's destroyed, we could go our own way. Meaning we're not politically aligned, but we don't have to kill each other. We could just kill the master who's holding us together. But the point being is think about Minnesota. I mean, we're gonna talk a little about the woman, but in a bigger picture, Greenland. Was that my dream that Donald Trump takes Greenland? Is it as a nationalist? Okay. Why don't we take Canada too? And now we're bombing Iran. Okay, why don't we just take the world? The point being is a lot of times maybe a nationalist just wants faith, family, freedom. And at the end of the day, I look at Minnesota and it's probably a lost state, at least from my political ideology as a nationalist. Same thing, I could look at California, and guess what? Let them go. And meaning let them go. Let's just separate. And then at least, unlike Charlie Kirk, where we're arguing, I wouldn't argue with the liberals. I would say, listen, your ideology is just different than mine. In some ways, it's kind of like the Chinese. I don't have a problem with the Chinese. I just wouldn't allow them to immigrate to America. I wouldn't allow them to get citizenship. So it's the same thing with this political ideology. Like, if Minnesotans want Somalis and blacks and are living in their state, do I really care? The point being, as a nationalist, eventually you want to care about yourself, your family, your home. And if America splits apart and you have your own country, homeland that's good for you, I really could care less. I could care less what California is and that. So you ask yourself, ask yourself, who is not allowing us to split? That's the people who control us. And so then we keep fighting. But again, are you going to join the military and get deployed to Minnesota and kill the Minnesota people just to get that territory back? I guess we're going to deploy to Iran. Like, where are we going on this? Let me do a quick thing on this woman thing. And I'm trying to, I'm looking at the comments. I got Ball with a meatball. Yeah, like I said, I just don't think this guy, Tim Walz, is, like I said, I left America. What do I keep saying? Your three options are going to be. You're going to see it. My videos will age like fine wine. One, you're going to have to leave America. Where to go, it's complicated. It's a difficult question, but you're going to leave. That's what I did. You're like, I'm done. Two, you're going to go into some type of country, off the grid, self-reliant, on gold. I think it's called gold, goats, and guns, and Bitcoin. And you're just going to ride out the storm on your ranch or your farm. Or three, the future politics is state politics. I say the future politics is state politics. And so that's why you're not really worried about Minnesota. I mean, I don't know what state it's going to be. I'm thinking maybe it will be a Midwestern state. I'm not really keen. I've said this about Florida and Texas. We'll just say Idaho. And you're going to say, hey, all I know is I live in Idaho and we have so much pressure on our governor. You better put Idaho first. And if that means seceding from the country, so be it. So you're going to look for the same reason that says, I really don't care about Iran. Like, people are like, are you sad for the people in Iran fighting for their freedom? Not really. I mean, I don't know. I don't know much about Iran. I don't care. Guess what? The same thing is going to be for a citizen in Idaho. Say, don't you care about the people in Minnesota? They're getting screwed. Dude, Minnesota is another state, and I'm from Idaho. And it's Idaho first. Yeah, but whatever happened to America first? No, it's America second, buddy. It's Idaho first. It's America second. You are going to start seeing this because it's not going to get better, people. It's going to get worse. And people are going to start either leaving the country, going to a rural survival mode, or they are going to abandon politics at the federal level. And there's going to be so much pressure. You're going to see, you could say, red staters concerned, flood these red states and go. But what I want to do is let's talk about this woman. Shane says, I'll be in Texas. Mitch Mitch and Travis are going to get rid of the property. Yeah, I'm not keen on Texas or Florida. I could be wrong. I mean, I would say my advice is try to pick a state that's kind of white, kind of Christian, kind of conservative, but either way, you're going to see it. These things are going to happen. But let's talk about that woman who got killed in the crash. And interesting, this guy's a former FBI agent, and he's talking about this. Now, I haven't seen all the videos, all the stuff. What we're going to do is this, because it's interesting. There's two sides to this. This guy, this former special agent, I didn't run into him. I think it was also past my time. He was in New York. He's a New York Jew. Pretty interesting, though, what he says. And what I'm trying to say is be careful if you're a MAGA patriot, where you put everything behind military, law enforcement, intelligence. I mean, I thought we said the government's corrupt, and now it's like we want more military, more. Again, I don't mind if ICE agents are focusing on illegal aliens. That was an American citizen. Now you might say, yeah, but she's a liberal, feminist yo-yo. Everyone knows me. I don't even think women deserve the right to vote. So trust me, it's not like I'm siding or change. But as an American citizen, be very careful. Just how I warned Senator Chuck Grassley on FBI spying on American citizens. If it happens to them, it can happen to you. But anyway, let me break it down very short. My time in the FBI, and I think the former FBI agent says it too. One part, it's kind of simple. The other part we'll see. So the one is, everyone knows this is about the agent who shot the woman in the vehicle. Hopefully everyone knows the story. We'll do a quick clip. So first of all, the FBI deadly force policy, I'm going to assume it's probably the same with the ICE agents. They're federal agents. I'm going to assume. I think it is. Anyway, our deadly force policy, we have to do fact number one. A vehicle is a deadly weapon. So a gun is a deadly weapon. A baseball bat could be a deadly weapon. So we have to understand weapons. A vehicle is a deadly weapon. And if you are the driver of that vehicle and you intentionally drive the vehicle to hit and plow in to somebody, an agent, that would be considered, and the intent would be, a normal person would say, to impair, to cause death or serious bodily injury, which we could all agree a car can do that. That agent is allowed to use deadly force. So that's just on the fact. But on everything, there's kind of in the gray. Now, the one thing I would say, and I've seen this from law enforcement, is this. And the reason I'm focusing on this is she is an American citizen. I know it doesn't mean shit anymore, an American citizen, but at least if you're a nationalist, you want to focus. There's many times law enforcement, they sort of agitate. They sort of escalate instead of de-escalate the situation. But anyway, this former FBI agent said stuff that I didn't know about. But when I looked at that from a leadership standpoint, you trust your gut feeling. I said, well, she's in a vehicle. It seemed to be she was driving the vehicle into the agent. She's using the vehicle as a deadly weapon. That agent has a right to shoot. But I just felt that ICE, and again, I'm very flexible how ICE operates with foreign nationals. I don't like them fucking with American citizens. And you might say, yeah, but she's a liberal feminist. She got in the way. Okay. And again, I'm not arguing with you. I could be wrong. You could be right. But I do see a lot of these agents with U.S. citizens provoking. And I'm just going to let the cat out of the bag so you know, and I said it. The recruiting now for ICE agents, these are kind of a lot of the bottom of the barrel people. I'm not going to still say I thank them for their service as long as they're focusing. Meaning, if this woman was a foreign national, I might look at this a little different. I might look at this a little like, a Somali immigrant. I might. As a U.S. citizen, we have to start asking ourselves, because I'm telling you, it's a two-edged sword. I've said this many times, whether it's the tariffs, it's a two-edged sword. You want to build up the military. You want to build up law enforcement. You want to build up intelligence. As a U.S. citizen and your tax money, be very careful. So I said, if this was dealing with a U.S. or a foreign national, I might just say, fuck it, things happen. A U.S. citizen, though, I'm wondering if these policemen, these federal agents, are sort of escalating the environment where they didn't need to do that. They really need to apprehend her. They didn't need to stop her vehicle. Just go on your way. And again, I'm making a point because he's a U.S. citizen. But if anyone says, "Oh my God, David, you're such a liberal," dude, this woman is a feminist lesbian. I've said many times, I don't believe women should vote. Only men should vote, and that would solve a lot of these problems. But anyway, let's hear what this special agent has to say. And he seems to be a more of the intelligent folks than I can imagine. But again, I think he's old school. He's retired already, and I've said that many times. I think the older agents are much better.
Several weeks, the rhetoric has been amped up by a number of people: the governor, the mayor, other elected officials.
So the guy speaking right now, I don't know who he is. The guy who's not yet speaking on there, he is the former FBI agent who's going to talk. I think he's a Jew from New York. I don't know him though. I don't ever remember running. I think he might have been retired before I got into the FBI. But what he says, he does come across as a very articulate, intelligent person.
The community is scared, to say the least. This happened in our community yesterday. It doesn't.
And again, I want to make the audience known, this could be you as a U.S. citizen. And it is true from a leadership standpoint. I say again, if the driver was a foreign national, I don't know how I'd feel, whatever. But a U.S. citizen, just be careful. Be careful how you're looking at this. This is a U.S. citizen. Lesbian, Looney Tunes, I get it. But she's a U.S. citizen.
Define who Minnesota is as a state or as a local community. And I think the problem is, people need to take a step back. Let this investigation go on. Let the facts come out. Let's look at it in the totality of the circumstances rather than ramping it up with things that are said, things that are done, things that you can't take back once they're done.
Look, Stu, usually we're hearing that from the mayor, the governor, the president, who Stanek left out there in the analysis of who's saying hot things. But the rhetoric aside, when you are assessing the specifics of the shooting, you heard my take on what the relevant testing is of what happened. What do you see and think?
So, Chris, my opinion.
All right, so this guy I think his name's Stu Kaplan. He's a Jew from New York, and I believe though he's not a liberal. He's a conservative like me. I'd be considered far right white nationalist. But anyway, and so what I'm trying to do is I am not a liberal. He's not a liberal. I'm pretty sure. But I'm telling you, we have to start thinking about this. These are our freedoms, and what happened to that woman? She is a U.S. citizen, so we have to look at this from that lens.
Opinion is solely tonight without any political favor. It is strictly on the merits legally and based upon my experience, not only in defending these type of cases, meaning representing families who've been victims as a result of officer-involved shootings.
So I think what he did, I don't know too much about him. I think after the FBI, he went in. I think he's a former lawyer, which is usually most of the FBI agents these days are the good ones. And then he went into criminal defense, meaning his post-FBI employment work.
In particular, people that have been shot while trying to flee. With that being said, the mission of DHS and ICE is necessary. That's a fact. There is a rule of law, and whether you agree with it or disagree with it, as long as the rules are on the books with respect to attempting to deport individuals that are here illegally, I will 100% support that endeavor. However, that endeavor does not operate in a vacuum. There are rules, there are policies, there are procedures in place with respect to require law enforcement agents or officers to operate and to adhere to those rules of engagement. We don't operate in a vacuum. And to the point of your guest, the rhetoric has increased, the threat level has increased, no doubt, to ICE agents, to local law enforcement, to law enforcement across this country. However, we must adapt. With that being said, when I look at this shooting, when you take a look at the video and you slow it down, when you take a look at the wheels, the driver's side wheel, when she starts to move forward, you can see that the wheel starts to turn to the right. Notwithstanding this agent who has violated policy. Now, ICE agents operate under custom.
This is an interesting story. Again, this would be totally, let me stop here and just do it. And I'll tell you, Stu seems like he's a pretty smart Jew. It's different. Think about this would be an FBI case, and the person behind the wheel is a known terrorist or a felon, wanted, dangerous. We're going to say that woman, based upon ICE, again, I haven't seen the videos, but it's probably assumption. The way she was talking is she's a U.S. citizen. Okay, I mean she's some wacky feminist white woman, U.S. citizen. Is she wanted? Probably not. What is she doing? I don't know. She's doing a traffic violation. I get it. But when she's escaping, and I really think that she's using the vehicle in an intent to escape rather than hit the driver or hit the agent in front. And you could say the agent was able to escape. Do you think it was certified to be shooting here? And I get it, but if you're like, fuck it, man, she should have obeyed the cops. I get it, but I'm just telling you, these agents, these ICE, what were they doing? I mean, I don't know. Do they even have any legal authority to stop the vehicle? This is a U.S. citizen. I mean, ICE agents aren't traffic cops. But anyway, we'll keep doing the video, but I'm just saying, be very careful as a patriot if you're like, hell yeah, man. If you're a U.S. citizen and you don't toe the line with police, listen to what they're going to shoot you. I don't know. From the FBI, and we would never be in that situation. The FBI, what are we doing? A traffic stop? I don't even know what the cause of the traffic stop is, but it was true. If we were the FBI and we stopped the vehicle, and this is a known criminal, known terrorist escaping, it could be different. And I think, who's this woman? I don't know. She's some wacky lesbian weirdo. She probably just wanted to get away. Let her go. You got her plates. You report her to the police, something like that. I don't know. But is this really what we want to have the outcome? Someone dead? Let's finish talking about it. I'm just saying it's a double-edged sword if we're like, yeah, man, I want police to go hard on U.S. citizens. All right. We'll see how that thing goes.
And border protection policy in place, which says do not put yourself in front or behind a vehicle, only under the exception of when you're doing an inspection. So that officer, by placing himself in front of that vehicle, has created what I call an exigent circumstance, or has created or manufactured a situation that if in fact this individual decides to flee, he has put himself, by inserting himself in violation of department policy.
Let me pause, and I'll do my time in the FBI. It's a similar thing. So Stu made a good point. Stu's pretty smart on it. So anyway, he said that the officer should not have meaning the officer, they had time. He didn't really need to be standing in front of the vehicle. Now, I wasn't aware of that rule. Again, the FBI we don't really train that much on that, because if you're standing in front of the vehicle, you should be doing an arrest like that person's wanted. I don't even know what they were doing with the woman. What was it, a parking violation, or she was obstructing in the road? It's just very weird. But I'm going to give you an example. And the FBI would tell us this. There are times where the FBI may have to be in pursuit of another vehicle. We have what's called undercover vehicles, and we have the police lights and sirens that are hidden, and you could turn them on. And so we're allowed to, go over the speed limit, just like you could imagine police go through red lights, like all this stuff. But it was told into the FBI, if the subject or perpetrator is fleeing, unless you feel like they are going to commit some type of violent act, or unless they are like a priority one target, which, let's face it, this liberal feminist woman is not, you let them go. Why? Because it could be a high probability doing a high-speed chase that a civilian could be killed. We've got it. The FBI, no one's going anywhere. Even if you leave the country, you got to go to China to really get away from the FBI. No one's escaping the FBI. We've got the plate. So again, unless this person is a tier one subject, like we have got to get them, this woman's not. Or two, it could be a normal person, but for some reason you have some type of intelligence that person is like, I got a gun, I got a bomb, I'm going to go kill people, and you're going to have to make a case like, whatever. Maybe the person said he's like, I'm going to go to this restaurant or this bar, I'm going to kill people. That could be also justified where you're going to pursue the person. But if you don't have those two, and this guy's going 100 miles an hour through school zones, and then you let him go. You've got his license plates. You got enough. You have enough. Because what you don't want to do as the FBI agent is to be speeding at 100 miles an hour down a school zone. You hit maybe your child. You're an American citizen. Now I'm the FBI agent. I just hit and killed your child. And I said, well, I was in hot pursuit. Hot pursuit of what? Of this fucking yo-yo liberal woman? But it's possible I was in hot pursuit of a tier 1 target, or I had information that this person was going to do some type of lethality, damage, bomb, and it is what it is. It's not a perfect world. But if I don't have those two, let him go. We'll find you. We'll find him. We're going to get him. And then we're going to get him. We know where he's going to sleep. We're going to go and arrest him. And what is that for? It's for public safety. So again, I'm just looking at this. I know the MAGA people, and again, I'm for MAGA. Anyone knows me. I'm not for these liberal people, but I'm just sort of the same thing. It reminds me when the FBI, because when I was in the FBI, I was like, man, the war on terror. We need the FBI, the Taliban, man. And I'm like, I'm telling you, what we're doing to American citizens, spying on them, even everyone knows I'm not like pro-Muslim. That was like, no, if you're an American citizen Muslim, you're getting spied upon. And I said, today it's Muslims. Tomorrow it could be, we know this, it could be Christians. It could be you one day, that American citizen. I just think overall, I thought the police, they went overboard. But technicalities, they could have a case that what the woman did. But as an American citizen, maybe we have to step back and look at a leadership position, look at law enforcement, say, law enforcement, you ultimately serve American citizens. You know she was an American citizen. Maybe de-escalate. And if she was leaving, let her leave. She wasn't really intending to hit you. The cop could step aside. He could have done another. And I know people like, man, you're not backing the blue. Well, no one fucking backs me. So no one backs to, people like, I back the blue. Well, can you back me? No one backs me. I'm just saying, be very careful on this. It's a double-edged sword. It could come back to you. Let's go back, finish. It's a short one. Right here.
To create a situation that obviously would require him to protect himself. However, this woman did not drive towards him. He was in her path of travel, trying to turn to the right. Unfortunately, I think at best he got broadsided or swiped aside. But if you take a look at his gun, he starts to take his gun out of his holster immediately upon her moving forward. Now, this circuit has ruled that you cannot look at just this isolated incident. You must look at the totality of the circumstances. And this circuit has opined all the way up to the Supreme Court that fleeing, people that get stopped may flee. That is something that law enforcement must anticipate.
This is what we're talking about. And we were taught this in the FBI. Just because someone flees doesn't mean, one, deadly force, nor it means a pursuit, because they talked about public safety. You don't want to be that FBI agent going 100 miles down the road because you're pursuing the suspect who's going 100 miles down the road, and you hit a child, a young American citizen child, and you're like, well, I was just in pursuit. You've really got to make a case that that was, again, either a tier 1 target, or you believe that person was fleeing and had intention to, blow up a building, kill people, something like that. Otherwise, you got the license plate. We're the FBI. No one's running from the FBI. We'll find them. We'll find them.
That people may take off. That is the very reason why you don't put yourself in front or behind a vehicle. And so if without any other facts, meaning this woman was a violent felon, meaning she had run someone over previously, or had committed a kidnapping, or had injured someone, at best, let's assume disorderly conduct. She was protesting. We don't condone.
This is where I go back into the FBI. Do you really think she was some Looney Tunes lesbian feminist? That's not necessarily against the law. Maybe she was causing a slight traffic disturbance, whatever, de-escalate, get her license plate, something like that. It just, meaning this is, again, from the FBI standpoint, this would be not considered a tier 1 target. This is not considered a violent crimes terrorist. I just think, again, and MAGA people are not going to like this. I just think the police, which are known for this, over escalated this environment. But if it was a foreign national, I may look upon this differently in some ways as a nationalist. As a U.S. citizen, which this feminist woman is, she's like you and me. She's a U.S. citizen. There needs to be a sense of protection that we are a citizen.
Her behavior may be a misdemeanor. Maybe she decided to flee and take off. Another perhaps misdemeanor could no way justify the use of deadly force to stop her from fleeing, especially when the ICE agent put himself in front of that vehicle. In my opinion, and I am the biggest supporter of law enforcement, this may end up being a bad shoot.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below.
Okay, so what we're going to do is, I got to, 1 second, I got to stop this thing. All right, what we're going to do is, because it's been an hour, we're going to end it here. There's another video that I want to do, and it's about MAGA splitting. It's from a very controversial politician, and MAGA is going to split. Just like what I'm saying is from leadership, what did I keep saying? Follow your principles. Don't necessarily follow the people. And I'm going to give Donald Trump, a lot of accolades. He's done something that politicians, I still vote him as the best president of my entire life. I don't think anyone else. But I have to admit, there is a cult-like following of Trump that as long as Trump does it, he's right. And if you disagree with Trump, you're on this bandwagon. And I saw that with this woman. I just think it was an over-escalation of law enforcement. I let the woman go, citation. The police will arrest her later if she had anything. But the shooter, one day, that's a U.S. citizen. One day, that's her. Tomorrow, it could be you. Same thing about Governor Walz. That state's done. And again, think about it. Send in the National Guard. Would you even want to go in there and defend it? Let it fall. And so what I'm saying is sooner or later, just like the video that I gave you in the beginning, or the talk about the military veteran, when we say we, who are we? America's getting so fractured. And that's what we're going to talk about the next video. Just like Donald Trump, and he was correct, said a lot of these Republicans are traitors. They're called Republican in name only. We're the real MAGA. Phenomenal. Guess what? It's going to go another layer. A lot of these MAGA people, and that's the next video. You're going to see it. And so the point is, you're going to realize, who are we? We are so fragmented in America that there's only one way the ship is going. It's going to go down, people. It's going to go down. We are just not united. And that's what happens when you have 350 million people of diversity being controlled by a globalist corporation, because at the end of the day, they really just care about money and not us. And so, like I said, beginning, could Americans actually kill themselves? Well, when I posed this to my colleagues or friends 15 years ago before I left, I was told I'm crazy. Really don't think so? We had some cops here just shoot this American woman. And I get it. She's not, we're not on the same team, but we would both agree that there's this entity called the United States government. And I would do it differently with these illegal aliens. And I'm not harping on Trump. What Trump has done is amazing. He's done more to move the needle than any other president. But there's certain things where he's moving that are not necessarily nationalism. And it's sort of going back to this globalism, this sort of empire. And again, with those police, a good example, if that was a foreign national in the car, I would look at it very differently. That's a U.S. citizen. And I still think at the end of the day, I think the police overreacted. Just let the fucking weirdo woman go. You got her license plate. The cops will go to her house later to arrest her. I don't know what she did. Even Stu said, I guess some misdemeanors, traffic violations. All right, you'll get it. But again, if that was a foreign national, then it could be different. Get out of the car. We don't know who you are. So hopefully everyone's understanding this, that sooner or later, there are so many falling parts in our system, just the same reason I'm here, that I just don't see a solution. And Trump is doing the best he can, but I don't think it's going to work. And I even think, like I said, we'll do some more videos later on Greenland, that he's now going in a direction that sort of this wartime president, that it's like, that's the solution to America, meaning America's falling apart. And in order to make America great again, we're going to invade these other countries. We'll see where that goes. But either way, let me do any final comments. Police, the Shane are out of control. Now, remember, I've said this. The reason I would tell ICE, thank you for your service, I've said this all the time, If they are deporting illegal aliens, thank you for your service. That woman wasn't. She was a U.S. citizen. So what are you doing? I don't know. Remember the story I did later on. These are one of my early videos when I was with this FBI agent. He was senior to me. He was in the car. And some of these, I don't know, these are some black gangbangers, pissed him off. And he decided to do a traffic stop. I looked at the senior FBI agent. I said, dude, what are we doing? The FBI agents don't really have authority to do traffic stops. You know, we enforce federal law. So here you are, an ICE agent. I don't know, what does that white woman do? I mean, it sort of was weird how she parked. I mean, I would just say, listen, get the hell out of here. You got her ticket. That's not what they do. Meaning ICE, focus on what you do best, and that is deport illegal aliens. If you focus on that, thank you for your service. Taxpayer money well spent. You start fucking with U.S. citizens, nah, I don't want that. Same thing I said with the FBI. I don't have a problem with the FBI spying on foreign nationals. The FBI wants to spy on American citizen. There's something called the Fourth Amendment. You go through the Fourth Amendment. Foreign national, don't matter. So I think that's, if it was a foreign national in that car, it'd be different. Governor Walz, standing up the National Guard, what did I say? You're going to start seeing more. You're going to start seeing this system is going to get worse and worse and worse. And there's no stopping it, people. I'm telling you, read my lips or remember this. You really eventually, you're only going to have three options. One, leave the country. Two, get off the grid. Or three, you need to embrace state politics. That's it. It's going to get worse. I don't think we have any more questions. But when it comes, yeah, Shane said the same thing. Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're in Minnesota. And Trump, I think, is doing generally the right thing. He wants to deport Somalia. Hey, that's America first. Again, if ICE sticks to what their mission is, deport illegal aliens, and if through this deportation they make a couple mistakes, it happens. But don't fuck with U.S. citizens. Just don't. I mean, call the local police or something like that. I mean, this woman is not. I mean, this woman was a weirdo lesbian. I get it. It just doesn't. And that one thing I've seen that with law enforcement. Same thing with the FBI. In my case, they escalate. They find stuff. A lot of, and it is true. I just said I thank ICE for their service. But the truth is the truth. The people getting recruited for ICE are not exactly the best and the brightest in the law enforcement community. A lot of them are fired. Again, I still thank them for their service, but my advice to ICE is focus on the mission. U.S. citizens were not your mission. It's foreign nationals. And if U.S. citizens, through protesting, start getting out of hand, I think that's the time where you get local law enforcement to help you out and to do it. That would be the best thing. Like I said, I was in the FBI. We don't investigate this stuff, but let me go through any final comments. I see Shane, every other YouTube ad I get, 50,000 sign-on bonus to join ICE. Yeah, I mean, they're really, it just is what it is. But right now, ICE is recruiting. Hey, I wasn't even, like, when it comes to federal law enforcement, the FBI is the creme de la creme. And I could go into my dealings with other, in fact, in many ways, I learned through other law enforcement was with my FBI classmates. Because if you go to the FBI Academy, you'll find new agents. And obviously, I came from the military, but I had a buddy who was what's called a federal air marshal. I had guys that were Secret Service, guys that were DEA, former, sometimes CIA. The CIA and the FBI is about 50-50, meaning it's 1 for 1. But for an FBI agent to leave the FBI and go to another federal, I've never heard of that. It's so if you're in the federal law enforcement, you're pretty much going into the FBI. I mean, that's your dream. And I don't know. Like I said, I just think generally speaking, as a nationalist like you are, our government is too big. And one way is to save your tax money and also to protect your freedoms is maybe down. Wasn't that Ronald Reagan? Didn't he say big government? What does Donald Trump want to do? I don't know. I mean, for the military, it sounds like he's building up the military. And I don't mind a buildup of ICE as long as they focus on foreign nationals, particularly illegal. That's fine. Just stop fucking with American citizens. And that would be my own. Like if they said, David, you've been elected to be the deputy director, like Dane, what is your goal? I would look at the American people and say, the only reasonable goal that I could give you that could reasonably add value to the nationalist movement is I'm going to downsize the FBI. And through that downside, I've said 50%, I'm going to do my best with whatever leadership metrics we can. We'll come up with them. When we cut the fat, 50%, we'll try to cut the people that aren't that smart, the low resumes, maybe the low morals. So hopefully we're going to get a higher quality FBI, but smaller FBI. That would be the only accomplishment that I could literally objectively say that's what we're going to do. And I do believe it will be an add-on effect. That's still not going to make it perfect. There's still going to be problems. But I don't know what Dan Bongino went in there for. I don't know what he did. He did 10 months of jerking off. What did he do? He didn't respond to me, and he had a duty now. Now he's negligence. Now he failed his oath. You have a former FBI agent as FBI. I don't know what he did. He probably said, you know something? I miss being a podcaster where I make millions upon millions of dollars. This job sucks. People say, why did he leave the FBI? I don't know, money, maybe money. I don't want to go off on a tangent. We'll talk about it later. Let's just go on the last thing. They surely can't be getting top-notch people. It just is what it is. ICE agents, there was no ICE agent that I know of that was in the FBI. If a lot of times former federal agents that would be accepted in the FBI, Secret Service, DEA, who do we have? Some other ones. I don't know, man. It was just a weird environment. I was getting out of the military. I still wanted to serve my country. And I think I was probably like you. Remember, this was like 20 years ago. I thought, hey, the FBI. I mean, I was different than Dan Bongino. I went in the FBI thinking, one, this is an awesome agency. And of course, I went down at the lowest level as a special agent. He went in already saying it's corrupt and I'm going to fix it. And he went in as the number 2. So we went in with totally different reasons, and we went out for totally different reasons. He went out because of the money. I went out, no. I mean, to leave, it was most American men to become an agent or like him, a deputy director, it's a pretty good job. I'll do more stories in the FBI, but it was a generally good job. But I said, my principles are, I'm not, this is a dysfunctional agency. I'm out of here. But yeah, we went in totally different reasons. I truly, in 2004, when I joined the FBI, I thought this is a prestigious, elite, fighting terror, duty on our country. And of course, I was a a level 1, a field agent. It's not like I had much power. Dan Bongino, totally. I mean, he is a fucking traitor. What a piece of shit. And like I said, when I was on X, how many times do you know people on X that blocked you and unblock you? And what do I mean by that? If you block and unblock, you probably know who I am. He knows who I am. And this was when he was doing his podcasting work. So now he's a deputy director and he still ignored me. He's a piece of shit. I don't know how else to say it. He's a traitor and he's just doing it for the money. But him quitting the FBI, I mean, was totally different. I went into the FBI thinking, really, this was a good agency. He went in there already telling people it's corrupt and he's going to fix it. And considering he's deputy director, the number 2, he had a hell of a lot more power than I did as a level 1 special agent. Absolute horseshit. He's a piece of shit. I can't tell you anything more than that. Anyway, wait till the next video. We're going to do something. We're going to explain how MAGA is splitting. It's going to split people. Notice how Donald Trump told you that the Republicans are shitbags and it needs to split. MAGA, Republican in name only. He was right. And a lot of people were like, wow, he's right. Guess what? MAGA's going to split. I know it's going to hurt people's feelings, but Donald Trump, phenomenal, really phenomenal. But there are things about him where I've always said the best is yet to come. I'm not taking any credit away from him. He's done phenomenal things, and we should be very thankful to Donald Trump. But he seems to be missing the mark. There seems to be people controlling him, lack of a better word, where he's still on this globalist trajectory and increasing the military. And I thought he got in to be like the peace president. He seems to be a very wartime president. Interesting. We'll talk about it next time. Anyway, David Baumblatt from Terrabin's Leadership. I'm telling the Patriots, thank you for your support. If you support a military veteran, it's your principle, not mine, then I'm asking you, please press like, send this out. And if you can contact your politician, Why aren't they doing this? If you don't support military veterans, I respect you. It is what it is. I get it. I don't really know how military veterans are really adding support to you. We're definitely not defending and supporting the First Amendment of free speech. That thing's out. We're more worried about conquering other countries around the world. But when it comes to the First Amendment, it seems like the military is not interested in defending that. So are they really adding value to your lives? Very debatable. So if you say, I don't support military veterans, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to say you got that, you got your principles. Anyway, thank you for your time. I appreciate your support. David Baumblatt from Terrabin's Leadership, telling the Patriots, lead to victory.